Story 1. Building a blanket fort in the living room. As a child, it was a castle, a secret world where the sofa cushions became mountains and the flashlight was a sun I controlled. Now, when I assist my niece in building one, I still feel a flicker of that magic, but I also worry about ripped sheets, tripping hazards, and how quickly the living room mess will accumulate. The fort didn't shrink. I simply grew into someone who sees the laundry pile behind the curtain. Story 2. Christmas is still special and remains my favorite holiday, but it feels different. Maybe it's because my mom hasn't decorated the past few years, or maybe it's just because I'm older and Christmas has lost its spark. Whatever it is, my memories of Christmas are much warmer, more relaxing, and nicer than the holiday feels in reality now. Story 3. St. Patrick's Day. In elementary school, my teachers put a lot of effort into making it seem like the leprechauns had come to visit our classroom the night before. All the glitter trails, fool's gold, and candy were so magical to me. It made it seem like even the air in the classroom was different. I truly believed in leprechauns. It feels different now knowing an underpaid, likely exhausted teacher went into work early or stayed late to do that for us. Story 4. Those tubes used at the drive-thru at the bank always seemed like some crazy futuristic technology when I was a kid. While they may not seem magical anymore, I would be lying if I said that pressing the button and watching the tube go up isn't still a little bit cool. Story 5. Christmas was something I had to realize was mostly for the benefit of children as I grew up. Family time is wonderful, but Christmas transitioned from being the happiest day of the year to just another day for me around high school. Story 6. The Olympics, to me it was like Christmas, Easter, and my birthday all wrapped up in one package. Then came the figure skating scandal where a French judge was bribed. I also heard about all the behind-the-scenes issues. No more magic for me anymore. Story 7. How much I could eat. My brothers and I would compete to clean our plates of massive portions, as they are much older than me. Now I would put on 20 pounds just thinking about it. I wish I could eat like I used to without consequences. Story 8. I used to love county fairs as a kid. All the lights and the rides and the junk food, fried everything, rides everywhere. As an adult, county fairs seem unappealing. I smell vomit and see trash everywhere. The food makes me physically ill, and the rides actually seem kind of dangerous. Oh well. Story 9. Going to the mall as a child felt like stepping into a whole new world. The food court was a buffet of dreams. The toy store was a paradise. And I won't even mention the fountain where people tossed coins and made wishes. Now, I go to the mall for errands. It's remarkable how something that once felt magical has turned into background noise as you grow up. Story 10. The woods are full of adventure and excitement, free from worries. Now I fear bugs, falling, temperature changes, and danger. Story 11. Being genuinely interested in other people is important. I loved getting to know them, hearing their stories, and listening to them. I enjoyed making new friends, going out, and having new experiences and adventures with them. Now, however, I truly loathe being around people. They drain my energy. Story 12. The Girl Scout summer camp I attended every year from ages 7 to 14. I worked there one summer at 18, and the magic completely vanished. Story 13. Playing in a dirty river. Sometimes we would see dead animals float by. It was definitely unsanitary. Story 14. Holidays and vacations. As a child and teenager, I was always excited. What would it be? I would meet new people and see new places. Later, I was excited to spend time with my friends with fewer, or no, restrictions. Now I am 40. I have a child and 2 dogs, and I am dreading it. Are we there yet? I am bored. I am hungry. I don't want a sandwich. I want snacks. And the dogs are always barking, panting, and causing messes. If I am lucky, it's not all in the car. I swear, when my husband says, "Honey, you seem tense. Are you okay?" I want to cry and laugh at the same time. Story 15. My Little Pony. Friendship is magic. When I was a kid, it was all the rage at my school. Everyone was into it. Even the athletes had pony shirts as a joke for a while. As one of the fans, I went in deep. Internet deep. If you don't know about the online community of fans, that was a mistake for my raging hormones between ages 13 and 15. I discovered inappropriate images of the ponies, and it was all downhill from there. Luna was my favorite character. Fluttershy was a close second. I daydreamed about my herd of cartoon ponies. It was honestly a travesty how easy it was to access, but there was just so much art that it warped my entire sexuality for a while. Took a long time to break out of that and get back to regular people. I had to wean myself off of it by transitioning to furry content, then eventually made it back to humans for college. Felt like some weird addiction. My collection of inappropriate content was around 20 gigabytes by the end. I can't look at those ponies at all these days. I avoid them like an alcoholic avoids a bar, especially Luna. I don't know why I love that aesthetic so much, and some of the artists in the fandom drew her in the most appealing styles ever. I just mentally block that out for my sanity. I still have a friend from the community who has a giant life-size plushie of Fluttershy that he spent $1,500 on, and I can only imagine the horrors she sees. I also think about what would have happened if I had gone down that path. Story 16. Going to amusement parks in the summer is enjoyable. However, the rides I love now make me feel motion sickness, which is disappointing. Story 17. When I was a child, Disneyland was truly the magical kingdom. There was nothing like it. The last time I visited, I had to take out a loan just to get through the gate, only to be met with crowded spaces, overpriced food, and two of the rides I really wanted to experience were out of order. Story 18. Christmas. As a parent, I now realize how much money, effort, and planning go into making that one-day special for the children. Story 19. Going through the car wash, my dad and I always pretended we were being swallowed by a whale. We enjoyed listening to Pink Floyd and watching the colorful oil slicks of the cleaner as it poured down the windshield. Story 20. I grew up obsessed with the movie Milo and Otis. I love animals, and the story was so cute that I must have watched it hundreds of times. As an adult and an animal trainer, all I see now are the multiple dangerous and abusive situations in which the animals were placed to capture those shots. Story 21. My mother loved blue. The exterior and interior of the house were painted blue. At Christmas, she had blue Christmas lights strung on the house. As a child, I loved seeing all this. As an adult, I mostly avoid blue as much as I can. Story 22. Relationships and dating can bring back the simple joys of Valentine's Day, like receiving a mystery rose or card or going to a movie. Remember the rumors and whispers about who likes whom? Now, as adults, the workplace can feel sterile and cold when it comes to romance, especially with a mix of mostly single men and women. Story 23. Disney World. I was particularly fond of Epcot Center. However, now I can't help but associate it with Disney Corporation when I think about it. Story 24. Childhood. Falling asleep on a pile of guests' coats on the bed during a house gathering. Adult. Falling asleep anywhere that isn't an orthopedic mattress, with a soft duvet and supportive pillows. Story 25. Holidays. I will never forget the butterflies in my stomach going to sleep and then waking up on Christmas morning knowing Santa had paid me a visit. It truly felt magical. I always loved Halloween almost as much as Christmas. I miss trick-or-treating, staying up late with friends watching horror movies as a teenager, and late-night drives in high school to see what we could get into on Halloween night. Even Thanksgiving feels different now. Family starts passing away, drifting apart, and making excuses for why we aren't all getting together anymore. I didn't appreciate it enough looking back. Story 26. Staying at a hotel during a trip can be an experience. A hotel with a pool is always a great bonus during any vacation. However, I often wonder how many people have slept in the bed or touched the door. I bring disinfectant wipes to clean everything I can, but it still makes me uncomfortable. I've brought my own towels, pillowcases, and sheets, but I still feel uneasy. I rarely sleep well in hotels and always need to take a shower as soon as I get home. Story 27. Family trips to Audra State Park in West Virginia were filled with swimming in the river, enjoying sandwiches, and drinking cold soda from a cooler. It is disappointing that life isn't like that anymore. It feels miserable. When I think of happy childhood memories, they all seem to have a golden hue. Now everything feels dull and colorless. I have never seen a color brighter than the lens through which I viewed my life as a child. Story 28. Disney felt magical as a child. However, when magic is combined with nostalgia, it resonates differently as an adult. Story 29. Christmas with my whole family. My parents divorced, and one side struggles with addiction. I don't remember the last time it was just the five of us. We were all together for the last time without even knowing it. Now, Christmas is so different. I am thankful to have a strong bond with my sister. We spent Christmas together, made some of our favorite Christmas foods, and went through high school yearbooks. Story 30. That wonderful feeling of believing you had endless time to go anywhere, see everything, and do whatever you wanted. This realization hits differently in your 50s. Story 31. National parks. As a child, I thought they were the best thing ever. Now as an adult, I have to force myself to look past the crowds, the numerous cars, and the many tourists. Story 32. Christmas. I work hard every year to make Christmas special for my daughter, just as it was for me when I was a child. Each year, I feel disappointed that it doesn't have the same magic for me. However, I have come to realize that it will never feel the same. Instead, I am creating my daughter's own special Christmas magic, and that makes it all worthwhile. Story 33. Christmas used to feel like such a warm and magical time when I was a child. My parents would decorate our whole home, and since we lived in an old Victorian house, the decor felt extra festive. We decorated the Christmas tree and hung the stockings by the fireplace. Above the fireplace was a little barn and a figurine of baby Jesus that was meant as decoration, but I often took it and played with it along with the lambs. I would get so excited to open presents and enjoy the Christmas roast. A day or two later, the extended family would come over, and we would celebrate again. Now, I feel like Christmas is more of a bother, although the roast dinner is still good. Story 34. A friend of mine told me that ever since he was old enough to earn money to buy his own presents, Christmas has been very different. Story 35. Flying on an airplane has always made me want a window seat. Now, it's just rude flight attendants and inconsiderate people pushing their oversized bags and blocking the aisle. Story 36. The idea of going to Disney World or amusement parks in general feels like a nightmare to me, but it used to be a dream. Airplane rides too. Story 37. Fountains at the mall, park, and public places always intrigued me. I longed to dip my feet in the water and scoop up coins. However, experience has shown me how dirty the water is, revealing that these are not blissful pools to play in. Story 38. Disneyland and Disney World are magical places for kids, but they can be frustrating with apps, reservations, wait times, and wasting money. Story 39. Getting to drive the car as soon as I could reach the pedals was a memorable experience. Looking back, my dad was just intoxicated and trusted my 8-year-old self more than he trusted himself on the road returning from the bar. I do allow my 8-year-old to take a turn driving up our driveway, and she loves it, but not on city streets and not because I'm intoxicated. Story 40. Movies. When I watch them now, they are filled with unnecessary female nudity that is unrelated to the plot. Story 41. Summer? What do you mean I have to keep working and don't get 3 months of sleeping in and doing whatever I want? That's disappointing. Story 42. When my first pets got really sick, they went to live with a nice family who could take care of them, and they are happy. Maybe I could visit a little later on. That's not where they went. Story 43. When I was a kid, my mom knew someone who owned a zoo. They invited me to visit because they had tigers and other big cats, and 14-year-old me thought that was incredibly cool. It turned out to be a barn in the middle of nowhere that housed animals like a panther and a puma kept in cages. 2 tigers were kept in separate circus cages, and 2 large bins sat in front of the cages with signs asking for food donations for the tigers. I was encouraged to enter an enclosure with a pack of wolves to feed them chicken from my hand and was told I was the first person to ever do this. I was also allowed to play with 2 baby tigers in what was basically a shed. I remember being amazed and surprised by how strong they were and how their fur felt burly like a thick rug instead of silky like I had always imagined. At the time, this felt magical, probably because it was the 90s and no one else seemed to question it. Looking back now, I'm horrified both by how the animals were kept and why my mom thought it was fine to let me into an enclosure with a pack of wolves. Eventually, the wolves escaped and went on a rampage, killing many animals in the local area, and thankfully, the whole operation was shut down. Story 44. Okay, this is going to sound strange. Here goes. When I had just turned 6, we visited Santa's village in San Bernardino, California. We went into Mrs. Claus's kitchen shop, and my mom sampled and then bought a dip mix. My mom was really into hors d'oeuvres and entertaining for a while. That dip mix might as well have been magic. I thought it was incredible. It turns sour cream into a delicious dip. Story 45. Nothing feels truly magical. I'm almost 40, and it seems like I'm living in a dream that resembles magic. My childhood was okay compared to everything happening today, but it was not what I wished it to be. I try not to think like this, but I often do. Story 46. Reading until 3 or 4 in the morning and sleeping all day during the summer. Now I am lucky to stay up until midnight and read during break time or on weekends if it is not too busy. Story 47. Riding bikes with my friends to the card shop is now replaced by driving in traffic to deal with scalpers. Story 48. Going to product parties with my mom was an experience I didn't fully understand at the time, but they were multi-level marketing events. As an adult, I am firmly against multi-level marketing and feel uncomfortable when people try to recruit myself and others. However, as a child, it was enjoyable to attend these events with my mom and explore various products. Understanding how predatory multi-level marketing can be now makes me upset, knowing that those women, including my mom, were misled into signing up and unknowingly driving themselves into debt. Thankfully, my mom didn't take it too seriously. She only participated for a few years, realized she didn't enjoy it, and moved on. Story 49. Fancy dinner. Like a picnic at home, small triangle sandwiches, maybe some crisps or crackers, and some biscuits. I used to love fancy dinners. It turns out we were not well off, and this was dinner when my mom had to make do with whatever was left. It breaks my heart that my mom had to do that alone. She is amazing. Story 50. Any straight romance in any medium bores me to read or see. My expression is simply one of disinterest because it no longer resonates with me. When I was younger, I found it engaging, but now, as I approach 30, it all makes me yawn. The magic has faded after experiencing the harsh realities of my 20s. Story 51. Parents do not always know what they are doing. Parents are not always wise. Parents do not always do what is best for their children. Story 52. I used to love sleeping more than almost anything, especially during the day. Now I experience sleep paralysis and exhausting nightmares. Story 53. I used to enjoy summer. Now I dislike it. Vacations are still enjoyable, but I now see them as expensive. Limited time opportunities to indulge because the cost of plane tickets, hotel reservations, and other expenses is significant. Story 54. Rain and snowstorms can be interesting. I still enjoy thunderstorms, but not as much as I used to. Now I really dislike snow. Story 55. Traveling to new places locally was enjoyable, but as I grew older and visited many places, it ceased to be as fun. Story 56. A&W with car hops. My dad was a hot rodder and we would go to A&W. I thought it was straight out of American Graffiti to have these girls come out to your car and bring your food. Story 57. Life encompasses all its aspects. I genuinely wish to experience something that will turn the world upside down, something incomprehensible, something beyond human understanding yet undeniably real. I don't care if it has a positive or negative impact on life. I would gladly embrace an alien encounter rather than endure this monotonous existence focused on money and facts. It would be a reason worth living for. Story 58. Each time we had an outdoor activity with the school, such as going to parks, theaters, museums, or zoos, it felt like playing outside with friends while also learning and discovering a new world. Story 59. My parents were very social, Almost every night, we had guests over. Most of the time, it was clients who became friends and family, but there were also just friends. Everyone was like aunts and uncles, and the atmosphere was always joyous and positive. I have many fond memories of the people who became extended family and made my life magical. Now, I prefer not to have people in my house for longer than an hour. Story 60. Festival time. Living in a country with more festivals than others used to feel like a bonus. Now, it's just annoying. Story 61. Going to the dump as a kid, we would build a base, hang out, and search for magazines that had been thrown out. Felt like an adventure. Now, it's a whole different story if you see an adult building a hut while collecting magazines. It raises judgments. Story 62. Decorating for holidays was always a magical experience for me because my mom truly went all out. I took it for granted at the time, and now I feel a deep sense of loss and regret when I think about it. I didn't appreciate it enough when I had the chance, and I realize now how difficult and costly it can be to replicate that magic. Story 63. Chocolate. As I grew older, it started to become too sweet, and eating too much of it made me feel nauseous. I no longer particularly enjoy it. Story 64. I think about my mother almost every day at breakfast. She was incredibly busy running her own office while raising 4 children, especially after divorcing my father. The fact that she always made time to prepare a hot breakfast for us reminds me of how much she loves us. I am going to call her. Story 65. When I was a child, it was such a treat to have a picnic on a Sunday afternoon or go to the lake to swim and cook. I never understood why my mom wasn't excited about it. As I grew older, I realized how much work went into organizing and transporting everything there and back, as well as cleaning up and putting things away. My dad would manage the grill and sweat flies, but not much else. He probably loaded the truck after my mom packed everything. However, that cool lake felt wonderful to me after working in the garden all morning. Story 66. An envelope with a 50-pound note as a Christmas gift. Now, I make my own money, so it does not feel as magical. Write me a 500,000-pound check, and I will feel just as excited as a child again. Story 67. Sneaking out of the house with my dad to get breakfast at McDonald's made me realize that he had talked to my mom the night before while she was sleeping. Now you all get to share in my discomfort. Story 68. Video games. All those console and PC games provided an otherworldly and highly immersive experience. Additionally, the social component was significant. You had to actually sit next to the person you were playing with, visiting friends' houses just to play. As an adult, I find video games extremely boring whenever I try to play. There is also a significant disenchantment with old titles I enjoyed in childhood. Somehow, you have an idealized memory of a game that disappears after seeing its technical shortcomings compared to today's gaming industry. Story 69. One thing that felt magical as a child was chasing fireflies on warm summer nights, catching them in jars and watching them glow like tiny stars. As an adult, it feels different knowing those little lights are their survival signals, and I probably stressed them out a bit. Now I enjoy watching them from a distance. What does childhood magic look like to you now? Story 70. Concerts without middleman scalper companies that raise prices allow us to enjoy being in a crowd, dancing and singing together. Now, it's too expensive and I prefer my personal space. Story 71. My sweet Aunt Mary took my sister and me to the movies. The last time I was in a movie theater was to see My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I dislike movie theaters. They are too loud and too dark. Story 72. Disneyland. I grew up going there often. Now it's almost unenjoyable. There are too many people, and since annual passes can be paid for monthly, everyone can afford one. It's always crowded, and the food has not been good for a long time. You used to be able to visit on a rainy day and have the whole park to yourself. It has been ruined by greed. Story 73. Grocery shopping was always fun for me as a kid, whether I was in the cart or running beside my mom. Now, as a parent, I try to get in and out quickly, avoiding frustration from slow walkers and the risk of having my ankles run over by those who don't know how to handle a shopping cart. Story 74. Christmas and New Year. I used to feel so excited when those events approached. I was always prepared. Now it's different. I no longer shop for clothes to wear and just lie in my room. Story 75, the Wii. I brought it last year and sold it a few months later as I lost interest. I remember being a kid playing with my family. Those were good times, but it's just not the same now, and that magic is gone. Story 76, Christmas. When I was a kid, it felt like Christmas arrived in an instant, and everything changed. Even though we grew up with limited means, my parents made Christmas feel like a magical time when miracles occurred. Now that I am an adult, the stress of the holidays is overwhelming. I don't know how my parents managed to smile and maintain their sanity through it all. Story 77, dinner time. I used to wait around for dinner to be called, doing whatever I wanted. Now, I make dinner and feel envious of those who have those moments to themselves and are not working. Story 78, pre-dawn. Being woken up by your mother in the early morning for a long journey felt like a completely different world altogether. Now I go to sleep at 6 a.m. Nothing magical. Magic has fled from our adult lives. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.